Pokemon Sword and Pokemon Shield keep one foot in the past while taking a half step in a direction that will irreversibly change the franchise forever. While additions like the Wild Area and Raid battles are exciting in premise, the execution is bitterly disappointing. Couple that with one of the easiest adventures to date, and what you're left with isn't the console Pokemon game I've wanted for 20 years. This review will reflect my experience with the Shield version of the game. The Pokemon franchise means a lot to a lot of people. It's the highest grossing entertainment property of all time, and that's solely down to the fact that in the 90s, those original 151 connected with people on a deep level. However, like me, the people who made those connections are now in their mid-20s, so who is a Pokemon game for in 2019? Well, in the case of Sword and Shield, Game Freak seem to be courting a new generation. It's an incredibly easy game. Only once did I lose my full team in battle, and that was due to an encounter I was under-leveled for. This is mostly due to the addition of the permanent EXP share. While previously this was an item typically obtained later in the game, now, regardless of what Pokemon were involved in the battle, your whole party will progress. This does solve the problem of uneven leveling, but it also means that if you even slightly stray from the main path to take on wild battles, your team will be consistently much higher level than the gym leaders and your rival. The only hard thing about the game is the starter choice, which features 3 of the most adorable potential pals in ages, although I went with Sobble because he's a shy retiring lad who needs a pal. It's a shame I never really got the chance to be his pal, because EXP share made it so that he had evolved into his distinctly more teenage and less appealing second form within an hour. They've even nullified the need to remember which types are more effective against the others. Once you encounter a Pokemon for the first time, the game will tell you from then on which of your moves are best suited against them, removing any tiny amount of challenge there was. As with all Pokemon games, Sword and Shield add an arc of new pals to the roster, which now pushes close to 1,000 creatures across all games. However, controversially, Pokemon Sword and Shield have culled around half of them, with no way to add them to your game post-finale. I'm in two minds. You can't expect a game to have 1,000 Pokemon roaming in the wild, but I don't think there's a legitimate excuse for not having them in the post-game, even if only via trading from past titles. If they were dead set against including everyone, then don't include anyone from previous games. Take the plunge, start a new Pokedex. But of course that would mean removing Charizard and Pikachu, and there's more chance of the Detective Pikachu sequel actually starring Danny DeVito. Visually, the game is well below average. While the design of the cities and the new Pokemon are actually among some of my favourites since Generation 3, from a fidelity standpoint it looks like a game from 10 years ago. Environmental textures are muddy and distorted, which is in stark contrast to the well-rendered overworld sprites of the Pokemon themselves. The Pokemon look nice, but in battle they animate in a way that's closer to South Park. Pokemon Colosseum had better animations, and that was on the GameCube. It's an easy comparison, but this is the console that launched with Breath of the Wild. Conversely, Sword and Shield look like a game from a different generation. The draw distance is terrible, with NPCs teleporting into your game despite you standing 10 feet from them. And even with all these visual cutbacks, it runs poorly too. I hope that for Pokemon Gun, or whatever their next try is going to be, that they seriously improve the visuals, because it's not a nice game to look at outside of a few pre-rendered cutscenes. Battling sees the addition of Dynamaxing, which is a frankly pointless and time-consuming gimmick wherein a Pokemon gets big and hits harder. The sole purpose of this seems to be to show off a couple of forms they thought of for different Pokemon, and that's it. The animation takes a million years and every single important or semi-important battle ends with it, so more often than not you'll be subjected to this arduous process of the ball getting big, and then they lob the ball, and then the Pokemon gets big, and it's like, Jesus Christ, I'm about to one-shot you with my hugely overleveled starter, can you just get on with it? The main story is standard, fire through 8 gyms, but one change is that the gyms themselves have small mini-games leading up to the gym leader. These range from cute to carbon copies of old gyms, but it's better than just walking in a straight line and fighting a few trainers, I suppose. Like Dynamax, it really feels like a change for change's sake, but at least it doesn't take up an ungodly amount of time. The story is there. Like, there is a story that occasionally has a few nods towards environmentalism and hey, maybe we should listen to these kids. But outside of that, it's such bland small town kid becomes demigod of Pokemon within a few days of starting that you'll barely remember important characters' names after you finish. The Galar region, which is based on the UK, is well realised with a solid amount of diversity in the various biomes across the map. The nods to the UK are fun, but the need for all the dialogue to be written in this cod Cockney dialect will make you press the skip button so quickly that your Joy-Con will explode. The wild area is a large patch of land in the middle of the map where Pokemon roam in various environments depending on type. This seems to be Game Freak's way of launching more Mons into the Pokedex without having to clutter every route in the game, but because much higher level Pokemon roam there from the beginning, you can find yourself rocking up to a Tyranitar with your starter and getting thrown about like a chew toy. You also can't catch Pokemon significantly higher than your level, which is a bit frustrating, but considering the game's already about as balanced as a table with 3 legs, it's probably for the best. The wild area is also home to the raids. While this may sound innovative and different, it's just a big Pokemon with more health that you and 3 other people can take on. They take a bit too long, but they do give out copious rewards, so it's worth doing a few early on. Pokemon Shield is a game that feels low on substance. While I enjoyed my time with it, it's also the least memorable adventure I've played through. While the loss of so many iconic Pokemon is hard for those of us that have been catching them all for 2 decades, I'd wish they'd went the whole way with it and started an entirely new 151. This half step pleases no one. Visually, it's miles behind contemporaries on the platform, the new creature designs are often fantastic, but the Galar region itself doesn't match the vibrancy of the new Pokemon. Needless changes to battling, a non-existent story, and poor post-game content make Pokemon's debut on Nintendo Switch a disappointing one. Thanks for watching this review of Pokemon Shield. Don't forget to subscribe to BBC The Social Gaming, and tell me your favourite Pokemon in the comments below. Fingers crossed they made it through Dexit. Until next time, I'm Jordan Midler. See you later.